Hey, what's up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to have another podcast episode ready for you. Today, I interview a great guest. He is a geotechnical professor. He is an engineer. He is Siavash Zamiran, and he has great advice for people that are wanting to get into geotechnical engineering. We also talk about an awesome website that he has called Mohr Academy to help geotech engineers dive into further software training and courses to help people really excel their skills in the geotechnical field. So he also is an adjunct professor and works as for a consulting firm. So he does a lot of things and is really busy. If you had any hint or any desire to learn more about geotechnical engineering, he's the guy. So I appreciate him jumping on and doing this podcast with me, and I think you're really going to enjoy it as well. So stay tuned, and my interview with Sia is going to be coming up right after this. All right, we are going and live, Sia. Thanks for joining me on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. I appreciate you jumping on here real quick.
Hi, Isaac. Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm glad for starting the talk.
Yes, this is going to be fun. So, I guess the way we connected is you actually invited me to a conference, and I wasn't able to attend that, but that's how we connected.
And then you attacked back.
I was like, "Hey, you should join me." So, I'm glad you've been able to do that. But for many people, I think I always start this by trying to find out your own story and how you found yourself into the world of civil engineering. And specifically for you, you've gone into geotechnical engineering. So I'm just curious if you could give us a little background as to how you found yourself there and how you ventured into geotech.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, in the school, I was interested in math and physics. So I had very passion about it. And then we have some family business in construction and civil engineering as well. So I was exposed to the civil engineering profession, mostly on the construction side from when I was a child and once I grew up and went to school. So that was the reason I decided to pursue civil engineering for undergrad. I didn't have any idea about geotechnical engineering when I was entering to school, but then we got a couple of geotechnical courses, just a few, like soil mechanics and foundation engineering. So mostly, during the classes, we just had class notes, but it didn't make sense for me. All the soil mechanics formulas, our professors just came to the first session of the class and started writing 30 crazy equations of soil and water and volume exchange, etc. We just got shocked and it didn't make sense. But then we had a textbook, DOS textbook, that was with regard to soil mechanics and geotechnical engineering. And I bought the textbook and I started reading it from scratch, from the beginning.
Oh, wow.
So I enjoyed the topic more. And interested, in the behavior of soil, and it's attracted me. And then when I wanted to choose a major for my master's degree, I chose geotechnical engineering. It's the nice or beautiful thing about it is it's a combination of technical parts, a combination of theories, as well as some experimental studies, lab studies. So it's a kind of mix of that. It's more experiential as well as theoretical. I thought probably structural engineering would be a little bit more theoretical. So that was the reason I chose geotechnical engineering, because I was interested in. And then for my PhD, I also continued studying geotechnical.
Wow. Well, that sounds quite the journey into that. Fast forward, I guess, to today. What are you doing today? It sounds like it's quite a bit. And can you give us a background on that? What are you doing today?
Yeah, sure. So I finished my PhD in geotechnical in 2017 from Southern Illinois University. And I started working as a consultant engineer in geotechnical field in a firm based in St. Louis, Missouri. And still I work with marine engineering as a firm and doing consulting projects in different areas, geotechnical engineering. And we have also some other areas as well, including mining and geomechanics. They are kind of the geotechnical topics would be a little bit more interdisciplinary. So I work on those areas as well. Then in parallel, I also worked as an adjunct faculty in different schools, including Southern Illinois University, the same school that I got my PhD. And then I taught one course in St. Louis University. And then I have been teaching civil engineering courses at Missouri University Science and Technology. That's called Missouri S&T. This semester, I also teach one course at Missouri S&T. So right now, I'm also an adjunct faculty at Missouri S&T.
Wow.
And then, yeah. So,
Busy.
and then, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying you're busy.
How
do you balance all that?
Yeah. Especially like the first years that I started teaching, I got very busy because I had to develop new materials. But then after 2 or 3 years, after that, I found out that I teach the same courses over and over. So I have the materials and I'm prepared. So it doesn't take that much time now from me. And it gets a little bit lower of my time.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So are you mainly teaching then today, or do you also have something else going on for work wise?
Yeah, so because we do the consulting, I work full time as a consultant, and also I don't teach. My classes are on Tuesdays, so just Tuesday in the evening I have a 2 or 3 hours classes. Yeah,
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to bring this up, but it seems like many civil engineers, sometimes they don't consider geotech as like the field of study that they want to go into. Even among civil engineers, it might not be the most popular route people go to. So I guess in your opinion, how can that geotech field become more attractive? I guess, what are you seeing that attracted you? And is there something that could make it a little more attractive, or what are people, I guess, maybe missing that they're not seeing?
Yeah, makes sense. So that's a good question. I think the main reason is probably we have lack of knowledge of what geotechnical engineering is and what are the responsibilities. And, in undergrad, we just have probably, at most, we have just 2 courses for geotechnical. However, for structural, we have maybe more than 10 or 15 courses. So undergrad students get less exposed to the geotechnical topics. And that's one of the main reasons. And then, once you think about civil engineering, the first thing that comes to the mind is structural engineering. But obviously, there are also other areas that would be potential areas for studying: geotechnical, transportation, environmental, hydraulics. So all of them, I think, are interesting. And these introductory courses at undergrad, I think, would be a great source for students to get exposed to all of these. And then they can find out what their niche is after those. So maybe providing some additional optional courses at undergrad for students who are more interested in geotechnical would be a great thing. And then the other thing that would be interesting would be probably some projects, some internships. I had a student who took 1 year internship in a structural firm, in another year a summer internship in a geotechnical firm, so he could get exposed to all of these different areas, and then he would have a better understanding of what the actual and day-to-day practice of different majors are. And in that way, he could better choose what the path is for them. So I think getting more exposure would be the key.
Yeah, No, I think those are all great tips for people interested or even have a hint of interest going into that field of study. I think it's a fascinating field. A lot of people, don't quite know what's under the ground or how that all works. So
Definitely.
it's definitely a good field to study.
Mhm.
So if you're a starting engineer, I guess, and you're working in some geotechnical firm, what are some areas that maybe those guys could branch out to as they grow their career?
Yeah. I think the beauty about geotechnical engineering is, as I mentioned, it's a kind of an interdisciplinary uh, area, and it connects to other fields as well. Uh, if I can divide it into two major categories, I can divide it into soil and rock categories. The most common and uh, just ordinary geotechnical projects are related to soil, because soil is at the immediate surface of the ground, and then we have rock underneath that. So many civil engineering, ordinary civil engineering projects like a residential or commercial buildings deal with the soil, immediate soil behind that. And that's the reason that the ordinary geotechnical projects deal with soil. And that's the reason we just study soil mechanics in undergraduate school. But once you get to a more complex and complicated projects, then you get exposure to also rock, and you need to have a better understanding in rock mechanics. Specifically, for instance, for underground excavations like tunnels or underground mines, you deal mostly with rock materials. Those are other majors or other areas with more specifications and more concentration.
Hmm.
And then that's the area that you get connected to the mining industry and mining engineering as well.
Hmm.
And then the other part is the geomechanics and petroleum engineering, because when you drill a wellbore for oil extraction, you deal with a rock medium around that. And a geotechnical engineer can provide great resources and expertise on those areas as well. So mining engineering, petroleum engineering, typical geotechnical engineering, those are all the different areas that someone can get into that. And then there are some also specific areas that are more advanced. Let's say, for instance, pipeline industries always deal with the pipe and soil interaction. So that is just another world of geotechnical engineering.
Hmm.
And also some other areas, for instance, geoenvironmental, dealing with contaminated water in soil. Or the other area is dam and hydropower industry and the needs of them of soil. So generally speaking, whatever structure that connects to soil or rock or have interaction, then you need a geotechnical engineer to provide some inputs on that.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, every engineer could probably raise up the ladder too. If you wanted to do maybe project management within that field or anything like that, there are probably areas that you can also branch out to as well.
Exactly. The other thing, it's very interesting and exciting. Right now, there is the Artemis project. If you have heard that NASA is
Artemis.
working on that to bringing human back to Moon and then maybe the other planets. Right now, they are doing a lot of geotechnical studies on the Moon and studying the soil behavior over there. So
Wow.
it's very interesting.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, I do think it's a very interesting field of study. So, have there been any of your own favorite projects or things that come to mind in your own career so far that you've enjoyed doing?
Yeah, so I'm really interested in computational geotechnics and geomechanics. That's basically using programs, computer programs, to simulate a physical or a project. So, for instance, you want to excavate a tunnel. You can do that simulation in computer program before going and constructing the tunnel. Excavating the tunnel, you can just simulate that in a computer program and predict the behavior of that using a program, using finite element, for instance, modeling. So that I think that is amazing. It provides a great tool to study and predict the behavior of a structure, including a geostructure, before getting to
That's
the
neat.
real project. Yeah.
And you've been able to work on something like that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's actually some of the projects that I have been involved in. I use simulations. I use programs to simulate real projects. For instance, I had a project for simulation of a sheet pile. That's a system like a small dam for water reservations. And I performed a 3-dimensional simulation with this complex geometry in Flag 3D, which is a software for geotechnical engineering. And using that, I was able to monitor, the deformations, the stresses, all of those things before even you go and construct that project.
That's neat. As you said that, could you, I guess, elaborate a little bit? Do you know what some of the other softwares that geotechnical engineers maybe dive into a little more than others?
Sure. Yeah. So, Isaac, we have some general finite element programs like Abacus or ANSYS. So those are always can be used also in geotechnical engineering. The material will be soil and rock, but the procedure for simulation would be relatively similar for maybe a simulation of a concrete beam or a column, or a building. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then there are some also specific programs just for soil and rock simulation. I can say there is a company called Itasca Engineering. They are based in Minneapolis, and they have developed amazing programs. Each of them has their own specifications and specializations. Some of them include FLAC and FLAC 3D, UDEC and 3DEC. For instance, UDEC is used for rock materials that are fractured. And PFC, that's another program that simulates soil as a granular behavior. So you have gravels that you can actually model all of those pieces of gravels in PFC. And because of the potential of that software, it's very interesting that they can be used in geotechnical engineering. Also, I know that in pharmacy science, in pharmacological sciences, in some researches, they also use this PFC program for that.
Wow.
Yeah, those are more a little bit research oriented programs, but more practical programs for just a day-to-day job of a geotechnical engineer also include GeoStudio programs. That's also a package of different programs for more typical geotechnical analysis and investigation. And then there is also another program that is very famous. It's called Plaxis, that was originally developed by Delft University in, I think, Netherlands, Europe. And that is also a great resource and tool. That is a finite element based for specific soil and rock medium. So these are general, and then there are some more specific, because in rock and soil medium, you have some specific things that you need to get. You cannot use a more like Abacus to model that. One of the examples would be, for instance, the seepage of fluid through porous medium of soil.
Wow.
So these programs are more advanced for these simulations.
Well, it sounds like there's quite a few bits of software out there that geotech engineers can definitely dive into. And I think this ties into maybe what you're doing on your website. So you started a website and called it Mohr Academy. Can you tell me a little bit why you started that and what that's all about?
Sure. So first of all, because these programs are very specific, there are lack of educational resources for them. Even the program developers, the resources for training, even under those developers, are also limited.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the audiences would be also more limited, and more specific.
Really niche.
But there are few resources for these specific programs. And because of my background in teaching and my passion in teaching, I found out that would be a great opportunity to start the kind of a platform for providing resources with these specific needs for geotechnical engineers. And also because of my passion in also geomechanics and some of the projects that I've had with in petroleum engineering field, I also am interested in providing resources and educational materials for petroleum engineers as well. So I defined the niche based on geotechnical and petroleum, and then I provided this platform for providing these types of courses.
That's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And you're able to, are you running that by yourself? Was there a couple others that help you to help develop this? Because it sounds like it's pretty intensive in terms of the training, but just curious how you got a team that helps you if you're doing this yourself.
Yeah, I have a team of other instructors, specifically in the petroleum engineering side. We provide courses on some specific programs for petroleum engineers like Petrel, or also we have another course, data science for petroleum engineers. So I use the expertise of some of other colleagues who have more background and knowledge on those areas. And then I'm also open, to extending the collaboration with other instructors who would like to use this platform for providing the resources. So yeah, definitely I look forward to have more collaborations and provide this as a platform for everybody who want to spread the knowledge.
That's great. That's great. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like mainly the courses are geared towards some of these software programs. Is there anything coming in the future here that maybe you've got on your radar to provide another course as well that's found in there, or you guys got it pretty much set right now?
No, definitely. I would like to expand. One area right now is the software and providing training for these programs. The other area, we already have also 3 courses. Those are more fundamental geotechnical courses, for instance, foundation engineering, mm-hmm. and geotechnical earthquake engineering. Those are extensive courses for these areas. And then, as you mentioned, I would like to add more educational resources in that. One of the areas that I was interested in getting more involved in that and providing more resources is earthquake engineering, and specifically geotechnical earthquake engineering. So dealing with seismic analysis and investigations with a viewpoint of a geotechnical engineer. There are a lot of materials, a lot of resources that needed to be shared. And I'm looking into to get those areas as well. And there are a lot of interest, specifically in California or the areas that are more prone to seismic hazards for that.
For sure, yeah, they definitely have a lot of seismic material there right now. And in fact, California, offers the seismic and survey portion of the PE exam.
Yeah, I saw it in your website. Yeah,
so that's a big deal as well. And not to switch gears, but I wanted to ask you, maybe, do you have tips or advice for people that maybe are preparing for that big PE exam, specifically for the geotech? Because a lot of complaints that I get often is that there's not a lot of material for people like take the geotech depth exam. There's probably a need there for additional help, but I'm just curious your advice on trying to prepare for the PE exam, maybe specifically for the geotech. Any thoughts there?
Mhm. Sure. So the good thing about the geotech depth is I think with a proper education of two main courses. The first one is soil mechanics, and the second one is foundation engineering. One can those gotta be 6 credit units in undergrad civil engineering program, and those are mostly under two different textbooks, one for soil mechanics and one for foundation engineering. By studying those two courses, I guess one can probably solve and deal with 80% of the materials that are covered in the depth exam for geotechnical. So you have heard about that proverb that says for many outcomes, roughly 80% of consequences come from 20% of causes. So that is, I think, my advice and also my experience. You can find 20 textbooks in geotechnical engineering or 10 textbooks and a lot of materials and resources. So it's very easy for a person who wants to study for PE to just swamp in all those materials on all those pages and equations. But I think just finding out which ones and which of those areas are more covered in the PE exam and just getting narrowed to those specific topics, that would be a great key. So this 80% versus 20%, I can say maybe 70 to 30, the ratio is there. So instead of just getting swamped in all the materials, maybe just finding which areas are more covered in the exam and just focusing on those. That would be the key. And I know that you also,
advice.
Yeah, I know that you also have these reviews of the structural and also geotechnical. So I think you agree with me on that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I just love hearing other people's advice and tips. So that's great advice. Yeah, we have our own courses to help people too. You can find them on our website. But I just love hearing other examples. And I know I took the geotech depth exam, and yeah, there wasn't a ton of extra material. So I like your thoughts that you can get the majority of your results done with just a couple good books. So good advice. Well, is there any other resources, books, or anything you would recommend to the audience?
Yeah. So, Isaac, I think the problem in our education is specifically for engineering education, for medical, all those areas. The problem is we just learn the technical aspects. We just learn equations.
Yep.
We just learn theories, and we don't get that much exposed to soft skills, and that's a lack of education in our system. And I think with studying and reading good books, we can get ourselves a little bit more experience in those skills. I'm talking about productivity. I'm talking about personal finance. I'm talking about time management. All of these things all of these have skills and resources that we don't study them, but we really need them in our professions as well as our life. So I always try to get myself exposed to those materials, and I like to introduce some of those books to you.
Sure.
I think that's good for a project engineer, for a staff engineer who gets done his works at work. Also for the life projects as well. One of the nice ones that I have is the 12-week year. And this is written by Brian Mohr. The idea behind that is once, we have the resolution. Everybody comes for a resolution in December for the next year, and then during March or February, they just don't know where they put those lists. So this book talks about instead of putting resolutions for 1 year, because that's pretty much long and there are a lot of uncertainties within that. So it's better to just focus on the next 3 months of our life, next 12 weeks, and do mostly our life plannings. Obviously, we have a long-term goals, but the book suggests that the period of 3 months would be the optimum period for doing the planning for that.
That's
Another book, and I like this author as well, is Deep Work by Cal Newport. So you might know him as well. He's the computer science professor, I think, in Virginia. And he has a couple of nice other books as well. The other one is Digital Minimalism. And also the Deep Work also talks about, and I really, this was very interesting for me. And that talks about providing chunk of times and just remove all other extractions, removes our cell phone, emails, phones, etc., and just put focus 1 hour on what we want to do. And I think this book is great and provides the tools for that.
That's a good tip for those studying for their FE or PE exam too.
Exactly. That's the best thing for studying for FE and PE.
Get that knocked out. So yeah, this has been fun. Thank you for sharing your website, what you do for a living, how you chose this field of study. I think it will be inspiring for many people to know there are other geotech engineers out there that have a passion for this. I guess if other people have questions either about your website or what you do, what's the best place for people to get a hold of you or connect with you?
Sure. Thank you, Isaac. Glad to talk to you. They can reach me on I'm in LinkedIn. So Siavash Zamiran. I would be glad to respond any questions. And also they can take a look at mohracademy.com and see the courses. And instructors would like to have collaborations, and I'm really excited for that as well. It was nice and fun talking with you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. We'll make sure we link some of those places to go and the books that you recommended so people can go check them out too. So appreciate you doing this, and hopefully we'll see you in another episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Isaac. Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right. See ya.